but you may have the goals and ideas to want to move it forward. We can help you move that forward, okay? So not only myself as an entrepreneur, but Shedrip as well, Ryan himself as well, and we also have two more individuals here that can help you, and their names are Stefani and then Lucretia, okay? So without further ado, you guys see, what is a pitch presentation? So this is going to be interactive because I am not your lecturer, okay? I'm really not here to lecture you, but I really need you guys to kind of engage with me because a lot of this is going to spark questions or it's going to spark excitement. So give me your perspective. Let me have three people give me their perspective of what a pitch presentation is. We kind of know what it is, right? It's kind of like a generality, but in reality, there is a definition. There is some kind of perspective that we use in the business world or in the world of pitching. There's still something there. So what do you think maybe? You had your hand?
Yeah. Pitching, like, you kind of advocate for your idea that you want individuals to be interested in or invest in, whether it be like emotionally invested or like invest with their money.
Okay. A way to advocate for your idea, to get people involved. Okay. Anyone else? Who has one? Go ahead. There's a mic. So we're going to have a mic come around just so we can record you. You'll be a superstar.
I think it's a way to introduce someone to a concept that you created.
Absolutely. Okay.
And
Anyone else? One more person. Okay, go ahead.
A way to like form your ideas and concepts in a concise way to persuade people to get on whatever you're pitching.
Persuade. I like that word. Persuade. Yes, exactly what each of you has said. So to persuade, to get people on board, to share information. I'll take it for you real quick. And to be able to convey your idea, right? Okay. So all that's absolutely true. But I am going to put somewhat of a small definition to it to make it more broad and a little bit open to give you guys perspective, okay? So what we did is try to make it much simpler and just call it is a short, compelling presentation. Done at that, right? We could stop there in reality. It's just compelling. It's going to help me understand what it is that you're trying to get across, whatever it may be. When I first meet you, outside and we met on the street, or whatever it may be, we are presenting ourselves to each other. So how can you give me the short description of who you are so I can gain perspective, right? So a short, compelling presentation that provides an overview of a business idea, a product, a service, or technology, right? It is typically lasts about 3 to 5 minutes. We're going to talk about a 7-minute pitch. Why is that important for you guys? And is designed to capture the attention of potential investors, customers, or partners, right? So as I mentioned, you can pitch so many different things. So I hope that you take a lot of this advice into whatever else you want to do down the line, all right? So for you guys started off with a lot of research, right? And you probably have a lot. I don't know how much you have, but anyone have more than 5 pages of research? Yeah? Anyone just want to throw a number out there? Because I'm guessing now. So who thinks they has the most amount of pages of their research right now? Just throw a number out there.
Like how many you think you'll end up having?
Or right now, what do you have right now?
Like 5 to 10 pages.
The 5 to 10 pages? Anyone closer to 20 pages? Whew. What are you researching?
Therapies for autism and how that prepares kids to go to school.
Therapy for autism and how that prepares kids to go to school. Got it. Okay. That's great. So what you have in front of you already is important, but we're going to show you how to condense it all down into a concise way to move your ideas forward. But for the pitching aspect of it, it's going to come down to you. The practicing of your material, knowing your things back and forth, knowing the statistics like night and day, and being able to regurgitate them very easily and in a thoughtful way is what's going to come down to you, but that takes practice. Practice, right? And perfecting it is only going to come over time. You cannot expect that because you've been doing this for a couple years, you know what you're doing. You can't just go off of experience. It doesn't always end up that way. Sometimes it needs to be rudimentary, right? You have to say the same thing over and over so that point gets across as often as possible. So the one way, I have 5 ways that I really want you guys to look at this. And one of the fifth ways, and I have a sixth way too, but one of the fifth ways is keep it simple and concise. I've already said that already, right? Tell a story. The hardest thing about research is that you know it all. You've done all the research, but how do you actually wrap that into a story so that someone can feel, like they are captivated by this, or they are intrigued by what impact it's going to have, right? Also, practice, practice, practice. Okay, you can only get better by doing it over and over and over again. If you're by yourself or if you're with other people, each of you are doing your own research, but you can practice in front of each other. You can find ways to help each other get things right. Okay, so I'm hoping that's what's going to happen after this presentation today. So also get feedback. Find people who have no idea about your industry and see if they actually understand what you're saying. If we're trying to talk about like transcranial magnetic stimulation, right? Who knows about that off the back? No one does. But someone may be in psychology and they might know about it and they may know why it's valuable, right? So how can you not say transcranial magnetic stimulation and probably say it in a different way, right? Those things are going to come down to you because you're the one who knows this better than anybody else, okay? So use visuals when you can. Not all the time will you have visuals, but this is important. When you can use visuals, even if they are props, right? You can have them next to you to give a better perspective. A lot of people are going to look at things and kind of gain their own perspective before they listen to you and intake all of that information, right? So today, our presentations are not going to be as visible because I'm trying to deliver this to you after as a roadmap, okay? So there's a lot of words here, but we got some visuals here too. All right, so, and the last thing is be authentic, right? Sometimes when you're up in front of people like I am right now, you can feel a little bit nervous or you can feel a little bit overly excited or anxiety, whatever it may be. All that's great. You can still get over those type of surges of excitement, or your voice may squeak or your voice may get lower, whatever it may be. All of that can be trained over time, okay? The practice and practice and practice. So one of the best ways is to probably have something that actually captures the voice. Record yourself 1,000 times if you can to hear how you sound, right? Most of us really don't know how we sound on the mic. We actually sound a little bit different. It's like when you're on camera, it puts on a little bit of weight, right? I got like 20 more pounds that's put on me right now. So that's what happens. We don't know until you actually figure it out and try to understand it. So try to record yourself as often as you can. That would actually help out, okay? So, but being authentic is be yourself and let your passion actually come to light, okay? So if you love your research and you know everything about it, you care about people who have autism, right? Show that as much as you possibly can, because just because you're delivering research is not going to always come across, but that emotion may hit me and I start listening differently, right? Start listening differently. So that's really important to keep in mind as we move forward. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys an example. Throughout this whole presentation today, I created a presentation around a company that we are creating for my kids, okay? But I think this is important because it all stemmed from research, okay? And I hope that the structure that I show you can kind of help you feel like you've been through certain of those stages already, and now I'm going to help you organize that, okay? So we have a company called Weirdo, Never Ordinary. Who has an idea what this is? You can take a guess. I'm going to tell you all about it, so just take a guess anyways.
Either cookie dough or Play-Doh type stuff.
Okay, interesting, interesting. Oh yeah, hold on. I want to make sure I give people mics here. Okay, I like that. That's a good guess. Who else wants to try? Who thinks they know what Weirdo is? Yes, ma'am.
Dough, it has to do with money.
Okay.
Money or something.
Okay, I like that. I like that.
You can make the dough in any form you want, so that's probably coming from it, where you
like
shape
it.
it the way you want.
Good idea. Okay, one more. Anyone else? Yeah? No, he's here. He knows what it is. How about you? Come on. What do you think it is?
Teaching kids something science-y through baking.
Seems interesting. Someone's a little bit been over my presentation already. I don't know. Okay, so teaching kids, dough, Play-Doh-ish type of things. Okay, so since you guys have no idea but you see something, this is a little bit intriguing, right? So let's go through it. Okay. So we're going to go off of research. So just like you guys are doing right now, your research and your findings are the most important step to beginning the process, right? You have a hypothesis. Hypothesis matters to no one unless you actually validate that hypothesis, right? So we go through the research. So in my world, research has indicated that many families struggle with finding enough quality time to spend together, okay? This problem can be attributed to several factors, which include work-life balance issues, technology and screen time taking up your kids' time all the time, right? Overscheduling, right? All of us parents have big schedules, kids have big schedules, right? What about shifts in family, family structure? A lot of changes happen post-COVID, right? A lot of changes happen. So people are doing things differently than they used to do, and people are spending less time with their kids. So, excuse me. Whoa, sorry. So since that's one version of the research, that's something to go off of, right? We want to see people have better quality time with their families. You want to spend better quality time with your kids or your people, your family, right? At some point in time, I see it as kids not having time with their parents is actually going to have a lot of struggles growing up. We know this is something that has been researched over and over and over again, right? So that's one portion of the research and findings. Okay. What about this next one? Research also has indicated that many American youth aged 5 to 15 face challenges in obtaining early access to STEM and STEAM education. Is that true? Yes, it's very, very true. So you read my whole presentation without me even coming here. I don't know how you did it. I have no idea. So she's put it together, right? I'm not going to tell you what it is because I'm going to show you throughout the whole presentation what this company is all about, and that's going to give you perspective for yours. All right, but let's look at some of the issues with this portion of the research, right? Unequal access to resources. Not everybody has access. Not everyone can go to a STEM-based school, right, where that's part of the baseline curriculum, right? Inefficient exposure, right? So sometimes they get exposed early and they start the process, but then it's not enough. It's not consistent enough. So kids, they lack the interest over time, right? What about stereos and biases? Like a lot of solar panel stuff is geared toward boys, little boys, and then some other gardening stuff is geared toward young girls, right? Well, why is that an issue, right? That's a big challenge for us if we're not introducing it to everyone, right? What about teachers and training and support? So when the teachers were thrown STEM curriculum, were they all STEM professionals? Maybe not, right? Some of them were, right? But not all of them. So some of them had to relearn it, and some of them didn't relearn it. So now you have a teacher who may not be delivering the knowledge properly to that youth, right? And so the research statement that I came up with, which is many American youth aged 5 to 15 face challenges in obtaining STEM and STEAM education due to unusual access to resources, inefficient early exposure, stereotypes and biases, and a lack of well-trained and supported educators. Addressing these challenges is essential for fostering interest and proficiency in STEM and STEAM education, all right? So if we put these two together, we're going to talk about why I see that working with Weirdo as a company. All right, but as you go from your research and your findings, you've established your hypothesis, you've gotten something out of it that you're willing to run with, you have to do what? Answer the 5 W's, right? So what's the 5 W's? Who can just throw it out there to me? 5 W's. You got it, you got it. Who, what, when, where, why, right? There is an H in there. It's just I took it off because I'm going to show you how, okay, instead of talk about how. So let's look at the first 3, right? Who is Weirdo? Weirdo targets families who children aged 5 to 15 who are seeking opportunities to bond with simultaneously fostering their children's interest in understanding of STEM and STEAM concepts, right? Families that have children from 5 to 15, right? What is it that we do? Weirdo is a subscription box service. You guys see that coming? You guys see that coming at all? Subscription box company that combines family bonding with STEM and STEAM education through the art, joy, and science of baking, right? So the boxes contain curated recipes ingredients, and easy to understand STEM and STEAM projects designed for parents and children to work on together. Okay, you guys see where I'm going with this? I've connected the dots between two large different samples of research. Why? Because that's where I wanted to go with it. That's just what I felt was something needed to be done. But then, if I got all this research, those 20 pages of research, I gotta condense it down. The best way to do it is to start with these questions, okay? So, let's do the other ones here real quickly. So, when customers can subscribe to Weirdo on a monthly basis, allowing them to steadily progress in their baking skills, knowledge of STEM and STEAM, right? With new recipes and projects in each box. So you would never get a regular chocolate chip cookie with Weirdo ever. It would never happen, okay? There's always gonna be something different, like chocolate chip and mint plus banana. I don't know, I have no clue. Whatever the bakers come up with, that's amazing that people start to ask for, right? So where can they get it? Weirdo operates as an online business, making it accessible to families across the United States. The subscription box are shipped directly to the customers at home, providing convenience and hassle-free, right? This is important. I'm identifying how to make this more simpler for my demographic, right? Same things that you guys are gonna have to end up doing. Let's do the last one. So why? One of the biggest questions for your research. Why? Why does this matter? Why do you care? Why should I care, right? Why? Well, Weirdo aims to create opportunities for families to strategically set aside quality time while engaging in enjoyable and educational activities. That's why, okay? By combining the pleasure of baking with STEM and STEAM projects, Weirdo enables parents and children to create lasting memories, right? And deepen their understanding of essential concepts of STEM and STEAM, okay? I know this is condensed, but this is probably something you guys have. You probably have this in your research right now, this condensed version, but does everyone else understand it, right? So I try to condense it down as much as I can for you guys, but at one point I had like 5, 6, 7 pages of why I thought this is important, right? And eventually I had to cut it down, okay? So now we're gonna go over, this is where I said if you have anything that you can write with, if you have a Google Drive or a Google Work Doc that you can work on, this is where I would like to see you guys take whatever existing resources you have and start plugging and playing them into different sections. We're gonna start first with the problem, okay? So after every one of these sections that you see where it says pitch breakdown, after every single one, I'm gonna give you an example of Weirdo, okay? Where it is as it relates to its problem and other areas, okay? So let's go. Any questions first? Any questions? Yes, ma'am. Hold on. Let me come to you. Let me come to you with this mic, wherever it is. Don't lose your question. Okay.
Oh, sorry. It's a really quick question. I just was wondering, will we have access to the PowerPoint?
You're going to get access to this. If you want it in paper, you can have it in paper. If you want it in presentation, you can have it there. Make sure you get with me out there. But everyone will definitely get the digital version of this presentation, okay?
Thank you.
Welcome. And I have a goodie document here for you that I'm actually going to give you now, since you just brought up something. I'll give it to you now because I don't want you guys to feel like you're lost throughout this whole process, okay? This is a 7-minute pitch on a 1-sheet paper. Holy crap, that's amazing. That's amazing. All right. You're welcome.
Did you make this yourself?
Absolutely. This is what I do. I do it for you guys. Okay. All right. You're welcome. Let's see if those go back there. There you go. You're welcome. All right, so what you have in front of you right now is basically what we're going to go over. The words on this document are going to be different than what's actually on the presentation. The reason why is because I want to show you guys how just because you come up with one thing one time doesn't mean that's the only thing that you can go with. It can change, adjust over time. So many times a business model is going to change before you actually go implement. And then when you actually implement it, it's going to change over and over and over again. Okay? So keep this in mind, but you're going to get the presentation as well. All right, so let's begin. So with the problem, I wanted to identify some best practices that I wanted you guys to think about while you're actually establishing this problem and in preparing to present the problem, okay? So the best practice number one that I wanted you to figure out is conduct your market research. You guys should have been there, done that already. If you haven't done that, get started, okay? But if you have, you should have found that this is something that is either there's already potential offerings already in the market solving some portion of your problem that you see, or there are potentially no solutions out there in the market that are solving the problem that you see, right? But by identifying that, that's going to open up this idea of where do I fit in? I know I want to solve this problem, but if someone else is already doing it, how can I be a little bit different? And or if I need to be exactly like them, what do I need to do to be like them, right? That's going to come from your actual market research. Not all the time do you need to produce a different product. We know when we see FDA, products, right? After 20 years or whatever it may be, someone just pumps up and throws theirs to the market, right? Why? Because now that license is over. Now anyone can do it. They can do the same thing, get a generic version of X, Y, and Z. It happens all the time. Sometimes you just present it better to more people. You get it much cheaper, right? You found a cheaper way to produce it. You found better quality to make it, right? However it may happen, you might not need to create something new all the time, okay? But you're only going to know that through your research. Using data and statistics, right? So we know all the time in research we can get 80% this, 30% that. We know that we can throw people statistics all the time. But people who don't know your market are going to get confused by your statistics if you haven't condensed it down, okay? So even though I'm going to tell you a little bit later on to lead with statistics sometimes, the best thing you can do first is to make sure that you're clear. You're 100% clear. When you say 80% this, 30% that, or whatever it may be, that you actually can condense it down into a paragraph, right? And that you've actually built up on time that the statistic is not just something to grab my attention. You can really enhance it and go further and further if I ask you more questions about that statistic, okay? Tell a story, we talked about it earlier. Your research is your research, but getting it to my head and to my perspective, it starts with you and the way that you craft that story that makes me feel compelled to listen more or ask more questions, right? Or just gain essential interest, all right? And be very, very specific, okay? So in your research, you cannot necessarily just boil it down right away to be very specific because you need to go broad. There's a reason to be broad first, right? Gather as much information as you possibly can, then you can condense it, and then you get very specific. But if you're not specific the time that you and I talk and you tell me about your problem, and your problem takes 5 minutes to tell me about, most likely I stop listening to you after 1 minute, even if I gave you 1 minute, right? So be very specific, and then let me ask questions. Let me show my interests, right? And then the last one is focus on the pain point, right? So we know that there are surface problems that you can find, surface-based problems. We also know there are foundational problems, right? So when we're talking about yours, right, autism, right, we know autism is a surface problem, but then there's other things that line up, right? How are you going to help kids who have autism move forward, right? There's certain things that maybe it's other barriers in front of it. We don't know yet. But if you're only talking to me about the autism problem, but never ever get me to clearly understand that here's really what you're trying to solve, that's going to be a challenge, right? That means that I'm not capturing it, I'm not jumping onto your wavelength, I'm not getting it, right? So who has any questions about these 5 main best practices as you start to prepare to gather your problem, okay? Or who has any questions about the problem overall?
Can you use your real life example as yourself?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Why not? I mean, that's even better. Tell me that you've been through the problem. Tell me that you understand as a customer of an existing solution, and you realize that there was a problem with that existing solution. Explain that to me, and I'm going to listen even more intently, right? Definitely if I'm a stakeholder, someone that matters to you, right? Someone who's probably you're trying to bring on your team, right? I don't know you, we don't know each other. You want me to join your team because you know my expertise matters a lot. Tell me that story. I'm going to probably be like, you know what? My expertise matches up with everything that I want to do. I feel where you're coming from, right? I'm going to jump on board. Investors love when founders are solving solving problems that they had as well, right? It proves that you're not just going to try to get money and then jet off to the next idea, right? Entrepreneurs have ideas, right? We got tons of ideas, right? The cool thing about researchers is that you dig, and you go as far as you can with that one particular focus area. That makes you a much more viable person who is not going to get sidelined by some other shiny ideas, right? That's something that's really important. So sharing that, 100%, lead with it if you have to in most cases, because that's going to capture, right, the heartstrings, okay? All right, any other questions? Even if there's way more best practices I can give you. I'm just trying to condense it down. I already put 1,000 words on the screen already, okay? So any more questions before we move on? All right, so I'm going to, go ahead.
So what if you don't have like a customer base?
If you don't have a customer base yet or period?
If you're not making a product?
Okay, well, product, service, so.
I guess like, because I do psychology research, like moral psychology and social psychology.
Yeah.
And so I guess we're not really like making a product. The research is being done to like further the knowledge base.
Mhm.
So would the product be like the articles and kind of the game?
Absolutely. So let me give you perspective, right? So we saw earlier when I said product, service, or technology, right? But when you enhance any of those, every business can have a product, service, or technology, or a mixture of those. But if you want to enhance those, you can do things that we call perks, P-E-R-K-S. Take this for what it is. Programs, events, resources, knowledge transfer, or other services, okay? So for those who are trying to advance the research, one of the best things you can do is, as a subject matter expert, is to push out information, right? Democratize the knowledge of certain areas as quickly as you possibly can. Why? So that other people who are doing research can gain value from your 20 years of experience, 10 years of experience, 5 years of experience, whatever it may be. You're delivering what it is that you know to be true, and what you're continuously researching on, that's very valuable. You see a lot of scientists nowadays, a lot of researchers nowadays, they actually have podcasts. Why? Because what community do they didn't have a community. They kind of felt like they needed to do something to get this out of their head. They started a podcast, and then the community started to evolve. You guys ever heard of I think it's a Third Rock podcast by NASA? I think it's Third Rock. Maybe someone can tell me, but it's a popular podcast. But like, not everybody's going to listen to it. But if NASA's talking about something, the NASA community is going to listen to it, right? And that's a big deal. So I would say for sure, you may not be necessarily delivering a product that's going to affect me, a customer per se, but if I'm a subject matter expert, if I'm another researcher, you have knowledge that I don't have. It still becomes a product, right? And if you want to make money on it, there's something you got to do about that, right? So maybe it's not just in articles and you're publishing it on some, big time publisher. Maybe it is that you do it on your own platform, right? I know in the psychology world it's very, very tough to say something and throw something out there, and then other people come back at you, right? And it's like, no, that's not it. I know that happens all the time, but you know what? Throw yourself out there. You are an expert. You're doing what you're doing. So take it for what it is and create something from it. The last thing I would say is definitely if you are a subject matter expert and you're going down that lane and you are never going to stop your research, right? Being able to create personality for yourself along with all of that is very valuable, right? It's not a product or service, but you're going to be able to benefit from that over time, right? For sure. Anything else, guys? Okay, yes. Perks. Yep, P-E-R-K-S, programs, events, resources, knowledge transfer, or other services, right? We all can create a product, service, or technology, or a mixture of the three. How do you enhance those? Expand it with other opportunities, right? And that's where perks comes from. It even works because perks is perks. It's like extra, right? That's what it means, okay? So now I'm going to give you an example of how we go back and look at the research that I did, and with Weirdo, with those two main research points, and let's see how I established the problem. Okay. So here's the problem, and then the problem statement that's created, right? Oh, wow, that's in the way. Let's see if I can move that. Does that work? That does not work. Okay, so I'm going to read this to you from here. I don't know, how do you do that? I can hide it. It didn't work. Okay, give me 2 seconds, guys. Okay. So I'm just going to read it from here right now. You guys still going to get the presentation, no worries. So modern families face 2 significant challenges that impact the quality of their relationship and children's development. The first challenge is the lack of quality time spent together due to factors like work-life balance issues, technology distractions, and overscheduling. The lack of quality time can lead to weaker family bonds and negatively affect children's emotional, social, and academic development. The second challenge is that many children aged 5 to 15 struggle to access early STEM and STEAM education due to unusual access to resources, inefficient exposure, and stereotypes and biases, and a lack of trained educators. This limited access hinders their future academic and career opportunities in the rapid growing STEM and STEAM fields. Okay? So, excuse me, with that being said, you guys kind of see, you saw the research, right? That was just a little sample set of research that I showed you on both challenges, okay? This is where I have to establish the problem, and I'm able to begin creating a problem statement. So for anyone who feels like they have their problem, just raise your hand. Who knows they have their problem down in a paragraph? Out of all the research you have, who has it down in a paragraph? You feel like you have it down in a paragraph? Yeah? You think you want to share a little bit?
Okay, I did follow a YouTube video from Europe online, and I did mine. I'm gonna just read it.
Uh-huh.
This project aims to solve the lack of having the most feasible methods to learn about reproductive health in the Arab immigrants and refugee community, and teaches men and women about the importance of postpartum care, even if they are not close to having children. This is a huge issue since the life of an immigrant can be as hard on its own, let alone not being familiar with how to work with your partner as a team to build up a healthy family, healthy relationship, and after all, creating an environment to raise healthy children.
Okay. So, sorry. Got it? Okay. Okay. I like that. So, for those who heard her, right, postpartum care, right? So I can boil it down in kind of like a synopsis, right? And I don't want to do that because you have amazing research, but I want to do it real quick. So pre, during, and post support for those who are going through pregnancy, not only the spouse, but also the person who is pregnant, right? Making sure that there is support on both sides, pre, during, and post, right? It's amazing. I like it. Okay. So that's how you establish a problem statement. You have to take everything you did and condense it down as much as you can. There are sections here, but going back to what I showed you on the previous slide, those are the sections where you start to really condense it down into those sections, right? So let's move on real quickly. There we go. Okay, so the solution. Let me put these on there. So once again, I want to give you some best practice to really catering to your solution. So let's say that you are confident in your problem, right? Confident in your problem, and now it's time to explain to people what it is that you're doing about that problem, right? I want you to focus on the benefits, right? You know how Apple introduces to their products all the time. We already had their previous product, so how are they going to make us feel better about getting the same product and spending another $1,000, right? Different benefits. It's very, very simple. They're going to talk about those amazing changes, right? Those unique changes to the audio, change to the video, change to the camera, right? Those little new apps that you can add onto your app or on your phone, or another swipe feature, right? As simple as it is, that's what Apple does to us. And guess what they do? They get our money every single time. Right? But they explain their features in such a unique way that we can't deny these are amazing features. These are some unique features that we didn't have in the previous version, and we are now going to be able to get in this next version. Okay? before I continue, if you did want some food or some drinks, they're outside. You can go get it and bring it back in. It's right outside for you. It is pizza. So it's going to get hot. It's hot now. It's going to get cold if it sits there, okay? So being able to focus on your features, your benefits, right? I will always boil it down to if it's more than one benefit, great. List the top 3 benefits, right? Why? Because it's going to be easy. If you list the top 3 benefits, you're going to be able to put that into a triangle. You're going to be able to show me how one benefit affects the next benefit, that affects the next benefit, where every input supports another output, right? That's how you want people to understand it. They want to connect the dots as quickly as you can, right? But if you give me 3, you can make those make sense very easily, right? So I always talk about using visual aids as much as you possibly can. If I know nothing about your industry, I know nothing about any of the particular research that you're doing, showing me something will get me closer to understanding your perspective. If you deliver knowledge right away, it comes into my brain, and then I get my own little perspective, right? I may go this way, and you're like, no, come back. But I'm like all the way over here. You really want to try to find a way to make it easier to visually explain your solution as well. Remember, solutions can be processes. It can be steps. It can be technology, right? It can be a service, right? How can we be able to connect the dots to why this is the right solution, right? The right process taken. Maybe the previous solution takes 10 steps. You've cut it down to 2. Make that very clear by identifying what the 10 steps used to be and why and how you were able to get it down to 2, right? That's something that you want to be able to do, right? Using data and also testimonials to those who have expressed that your solution seems to be the most viable solution, that's very important, right? And being very specific, once again, if you explain to me your solution and it takes 5 minutes, it's going to be very tough for me to capture and say, you know what, I get it. I like your solution. If we can condense it down and leave a little bit of a cliffhanger so that I can ask questions, right? That's what we want to do. Okay, so these are, once again, best practices associated to taking what you already have, your research, identifying your problem, and finding a unique solution, but condensing it down in this particular way. I'm going to give you guys another example with Weirdo real quick. So as we said, Weirdo is focusing on STEM and STEAM. So one way to really do it, first establish what your solution is, and then identify why it is the best solution, right? Yes, why it is the best solution, right? Even though it's new, it's coming to the market, you may not know, someone may say, oh, it's not the best, it can't be the best. Well, for now, this is why I believe it's the best possible solution, right? And then you give a solution statement. So I'm not going to go over the solution too much because I already went over that before, but let me explain why I think is important. So Weirdo is the perfect solution because it directly addresses the dual challenges of limited family time and limited access to STEM education. Done. I could have stopped it right there and never put anything else on this screen because that is exactly what it is, right? Accessing STEM education and spending quality family time together, right? If I state that, now someone who knew nothing about that can say, oh, tell me more. Tell me more. Tell me more. What does it really do? How do they get this, right? And then I can start to explain the process. I can start to explain the subscription box that we talked about, okay? And then establishing a solution statement. Not necessary, but I like to do that because if I can explain all of this, I won't have to talk too much more. So I can cut this in half. I can say a little bit and then express the rest, right? Any questions on just the structure of getting from your research to your problem and to the solution? Yes, ma'am.
Since our oral presentation is 3 minutes.
3 minutes? I thought it's 3 minutes?
Proposal is 3, documentation is 7.
The presentation is 7, but your which one's 3?
We have a 3-minute video that we submit to the judge to see if we can do the whole 7 minutes.
Oh yeah. So don't worry, I have a 3-minute pitch to this too. Don't worry. Excuse me. So here's what I will tell you. What I'm giving you is a 7-minute pitch breakdown, because the elongated version can be condensed down. All it is removing certain information that does not need to be expounded upon, right? So you know you have a certain time frame that you have to do something. I have these same documents I'm gonna show you in a 3-minute pitch and also in a 30-second pitch and a 1-minute pitch, okay? It's the same thing. I'm just showing you what information is removed, what information is more pertinent when you're speaking with less words, right? And once again, if you're presenting something, how can you present something in a visual way, which doesn't even have all these words? You're going to present in a visual way. I still have that material as well for you guys, okay? So don't forget to, I'm going to give it to you no matter what, but don't forget to ask for it again if you want it right now, right after the program, okay? So yes, the 3-minute pitch, I understand that 100%. I'll show you how to break that down, okay? One more question. Someone else had a question? Yes, sir. I couldn't hear you.
So if our problem is that there's a lack of knowledge on a particular molecular concept, and then our solution is the methods that we use to determine that and what we think it is based on our results, should we emphasize our methods or just go straight to our results and then introduce how?
So are you asking what is the method?
Yeah, like our procedures, because it's only 3 minutes. But I guess what I'm struggling with is condensing my results, because without the methods that I've used and elaborating on that, it'll be difficult for the audience to understand how did you get this result from
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, so because it's research, right? And maybe you're not making a product tomorrow, right? Well, the reason why I'm giving you a product perspective is because at the end of the day, that product has to benefit someone, right? So same thing with your research. So if you can show me the process taken, and you can show me that if it would normally take you 15 steps, and you can show me that it took 5 steps or whatever it may be, that's going to make it more clear to me why the research you did, you've gotten and figured it out to be able to present a better potential product in the market, right? Or something to solve the existing issues of today. So if it's a process, that's one way you can explain it, but we can look at your solution and really try to find out which way is the best way to explain it. Sometimes it's, hey, here's the 5 steps, like I just mentioned. Here's the 5 steps of what it does to get there. Or here's the workaround that we had to do to get there. We just got to figure out the best way to explain it. But I'm looking at it from a different point of view. If you have research right now with what you guys are doing, it's a lot of research and you haven't condensed it down, all we're trying to do is to get to a statement, right? However you can take all of that and condense it down to a statement, it will probably get closer to tell you what it is. Like, for example, this statement here, it's going to tell you it's a STEM learning and engaging, enjoyable, and accessible format, filling a critical gap in the market for innovative and educational family activities, right? So you at least know by the end of this statement, I could care less about what's happening in the schools, what's happening in the community. I want to do what's happening in the family dynamic, right? So that's kind of where your statement should get closer and closer to what it is you really are trying to use as a solution, okay? So, okay. So let's move on real quickly to the target market, which is probably one of the hardest areas to explain, okay? Who knows what a target market is? Just before I even begin, target market. Yes, ma'am.
It could be like an economic sector that you're trying to target, like technology or whatnot, or it could be a targeted audience, like specific individuals.
Right. More so the latter, the target audience, right? The people, right? The ones who are going to be affected by your offering that you're bringing to the market, right? So sometimes this is the hardest thing. I'm going to break it down to you in a way that is normal in pitching, but just because I'm going to give it to you this way doesn't mean it's the only way to explain your market opportunity, right? So real quickly, within your target market, what you're trying to look for is to truly identify not only the psychographics of your audience, right? That target audience, what they do on a daily basis, why they need your product now versus the existing products in the market, right? Who are they? The overall demographics, right? Are they old, young, middle-aged, whatever it may be? Are they a certain race? Are they a certain gender, whatever it may be? Being very clear on who they are in that area is also going to be important, because as I start to ask questions, I'm a key stakeholder. I want to know more. I want to know that you know everything about your audience. In the investment world and in the startup world, we talk about being customer obsessed. Anyone ever heard what that means? Customer obsessed. Do you know about your customer? Do you know everything? You mentioned earlier that you're a product of your own solution, right? To your own problem. You know other people have similar issues, challenges, or whatever it may be. So you know them. How do you express that to me? How does that get onto paper? Okay? So once again, being able to identify your customer and knowing your customer, being customer obsessed is really going to get you get closer to getting my interest or whoever that key stakeholder's interest is, because now I know you're actually clear on who you're solving a problem for. Now, the other aspect of identifying a customer, you want to identify what are the current solutions that they already have. Why do they work? Because they are existing, right? They are working. They are being sold, they're being delivered, they're being used, whatever it may be. There are existing solutions to the problem that you are looking to solve, right? Why do they work? And then identifying why they work, right? Why someone's willing to pay for it. But then after that, what makes you so different, right? And why would that existing customer actually switch from their existing solution to your potential solution, right? You have to identify why they would even make that decision, okay? Your market segmentation, sometimes we're trying to reach kids, right? You mentioned autism. At the end of the day, it's the child that you're trying to fix, but are they your true customer? They're not your true customer, right? Who's the closest true customer to the kids? Parents. You got to make the parents believe that your solution would help, right? So sometimes it's really hard to kind of understand which person is my true customer, but learning how to segment them and identify why maybe the end user of your product is not the one who's going to actually pay for it, right? Or get access to it first, okay? By doing number 1 and 2, it probably helps you establish what number 3 is, which is your persona. So maybe your persona is Jenny. She is 25 years old. She has a 3-year-old kid who has autism. You started off, you created a persona. She's so busy, she doesn't have enough time to figure out the research necessary to make sure that her kid has the right development skills or the right development support along the way. Done. However you built that persona, that's another thing. If it's not you, it's a persona that you're going to bring to life as much as you possibly can, right? The whole avatar perspective, create an avatar that allows you to tell that story and connect the dots to what you know to be a group of real people out there, but this persona is going to best represent them, okay? Conducting the market research, we talked about that before. It's your job to make sure you're conducting the right market research, right? And then test and iterate. So who's at the point right now where they're beyond research and they're actually testing? Anyone? You're beyond research already? You're already started on a testing process? You're at that stage?
Yeah.
Yeah?
You mean like data analysis type stuff?
Well, testing meaning you're going after the customer to figure out if the customer believes that this is a valuable solution. So you mentioned earlier, it's not really a product or a service, but have you began getting the advice from an audience who you feel this is going to impact?
I mean, like I've had feedback from different like lab members, so I guess different researchers in the field.
Okay, so those are going to be important for your internal structure and the development of what you're trying to build or create, but that external validation for those who are mostly going to be impacted by it over time is where we're talking about testing and iterating, right? So when you do have that next, once again, it's not a product or a service, but it's that next level of knowledge, it's that next level understanding or awareness, right, of a psychological area. When you're ready to deliver that, who is going to give you best feedback, right? So your internal group is going to be amazing. They help you make quick adjustments. But when that group of people get a hold of what you're talking about, they're probably going to tell you if it's valuable or not. Most likely your internal group won't necessarily say that right away.
So that would kind of be like presenting research different places to like external experts in the field.
Exactly.
Okay.
To see if they clearly understand the problem that you're trying to solve and if this is the right potential solution, right? So yeah, thank you. So this is really the goal. I know you guys are in research right now, but the goal for research is to say, get out of research. That's always the goal. Get out of research as quickly as you can so that we can identify if this is the right possible solution, right? So testing and iterating is probably where we're trying to get you guys to get as quickly as possible. I don't know what the next steps is for you, but I'm gonna ask, after this research, after these pitches, what's the next step? Do you guys know the next step? What's the next step?
Go to our target audience, and I will be the chancellors,
Mm-hmm.
and tell them what's going on.
Oh, very good. So the next step for you, so when you say go to the chancellors, does that mean to do what?
To give them a presentation regarding my research results.
Okay. And then from there, is there some step that, like, how do you end up getting to the testing?
How do I
You did early testing to show results, but those early ones are just to validate the actual problem and solution. But
I've interviewed people that have those issues. So I have some solutions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So hopefully by that time, you don't feel like you need to go back to these people. You can begin ready to move forward in order to get this thing to the market, right? That's the next steps, right? So for some people, it's continued iteration. I interviewed people in a school circle. Now I got to go interview, people at a corporate organization. Now I got to go do this. Or there's other areas where that can get more validation to prove and validate that your problem is truly being solved with your solution, right? Your potential solution. So if you don't need to go back to iteration, perfect, right? So whatever you can do now to feel confident and excited about the next steps of going to market, that's where we want to get you guys definitely after the next couple of weeks with your research. Because we're going into the summer, I know a lot of people are going to be doing this, right? Okay. So let's give a quick example.
Our solutions are recommendations.
Just recommendations at the moment for you guys. But someone's going to want to take this whole research thing serious and take it outside and go do something. And for that person is going to have to make sure they've done the right research. Because the research that you're going to give to someone right now may be condensed. You may need to do more. And honestly, if you have a product, we need to go test it in the market. If you can't get your product in the market now, how do we get to the market? Now we got to go create that process, right? Some people may need FDA approval for something that they're looking for medicine. Someone may need a wearable device that needs approval by whatever. We have to figure out what those next steps are, right? So when you guys have those challenges, which you will, come back here so that we can actually help you through that process, creating those next steps, okay? So let's just look at the target audience. You guys kind of already saw before. I won't go too deep into it, but we said that there are the age 5 to 15. A 5-year-old is not going to pay me, right? 5-year-old is not going to pay me. But a 5 to 15, we know that parents are the ones who are going to pay for the services that we offer. So what we are identifying that will parents be willing to pay $20, $30, or $50 for our subscription box a month, okay? Any parents here? No parents? Okay, I got kids. Okay, 15, 13, and 2, okay? So my kids actually helped me come up with the idea. This is what they wanted, right? But as a parent, I know that my life gets busy, challenging, and heck yeah, I would pay 50 bucks. Why? Because all of the after-school programs that I paid for already cost $100. I'll pay 50 bucks to have time with my kids for 2 times a month scheduled, because now when those packages comes in, I got to schedule it on the calendar, right? So I'm willing to pay for it, but I got to go identify with other parents. Are they willing to pay 20, 30, or 50 bucks, right? And I I kind of structured it 20, 30, 50 because when I look at the market, there are already existing products that help kids in family bonding time that are around that same price point, okay? So that's what we're looking for. We've identified what I call or not what I call, but what we call inside the world of pitching, the TAM, SAM, and SOM. Have you guys heard those perspectives before? TAM, SAM, and SOM. Okay, as you guys can see, I have a little bit of a definition of what it is, and then I explain kind of what Weirdos is. Let's just go over two of them. So the TAM is the total addressable market, right? The total addressable market. That means the largest sum of people who would be impacted by my product or service or technology, right? So the total addressable market refers to the overall revenue opportunity for a product or service, assuming 100% of the market potential and penetration, okay? So in Weirdo's example, to estimate the TAM, what I did was I looked at the total number of families with children aged to 5 to 15, okay, in the United States. And according to the US Census Bureau, there are approximately 30 million families with children under 18, and if 70% of those families that have children ages 5 to 15, our TAM would be about 21 million of those, okay? So that larger number, and then I'm trying to get to that closer group of people that I'm going to target. After I've identified a TAM, which is the larger one, I'm going to come down. Why? Because I can't just say I'm going to go to market and be a market share leader tomorrow. I'm a startup. I'm a new person. I'm just getting into the market. So we're going to look at the serviceable addressable market, right? Who can I service much quicker, right? Since I cannot service a TAM right away, who can I service much quicker? The serviceable addressable market is the portion of the TAM that your business can realistically serve, right? So, and then considering factors such as geographic, distribution channels, and the product fit, okay? Has anyone ever heard of product market fit? Okay? We've all been part of a product market fit at some level. We all have clothes on. We all have shoes on. We all have technology in the palm of our hands. At some point, that product fit our needs, right? Not every product usually fits everyone's needs, right? Sometimes we see products get into the market, they stick around for 2 years, then they're gone, right? Because that didn't have product market fit. But why does Apple able to continuously build new products in their research and development sector of their company and push out another product for even a higher price? Why? Because the existing product already fits the market. And all they got to do is identify what other changes we want with that existing product, and they're going to introduce certain changes in the next iteration of that product, okay? So we're looking for product market fit, and you have to find the group of people who you realistically can go after. In this example for Weirdo, let's assume that our initial focus on the US market and that we can achieve 20% of our TAM, right? Through online marketing, distribution channels, right? And other distribution channels. So this would put the SAM approximately about 4.2 million people that we could truly go after, okay? But even though we found our SAM, we really need to find who's going to be the earliest adopter of our product. Even though these people may hear about us and like, oh, that's amazing, that's great, they're probably already being serviced one way or another, and they love it. They probably are, okay, complacent with it, right? They don't want to change it. So we need to find the ones who are willing to make the change, identify that we are new, but we're different, and they love our value proposition that we're delivering. That is our SOM, our serviceable, obtainable market, the market that we can obtain right now as we enter the market, okay? So that serviceable, obtainable market is the share of the SAM that your business can realistically capture, considering factors such as competition, market share, and growth rate. So we know that the market share leaders already offer a product, but that product doesn't solve all of the issues. And we are going to solve X issue that market share leaders don't. But the consumer who is already being serviced by the market share leader doesn't know who we are, right? So we have to find a better way to show our unique difference. If you enter the market in a and a market share leader controls 80% of the market, shouldn't you do at least 80% what they do when you enter the market? Otherwise, the people who are being serviced by them, they will never know who you are because you don't even do 80% of what they do. They don't even trust you. You're entering the market, you don't even solve 80% of the issues that I have right now, right? So what you have to do when you're starting to break down your market, and this is the toughest part, but I will help you guys if you come back and you need some more support. This is the toughest part. What I would ask you to do is try to find your TAM as quickly as you can. Who is that TAM? Go to the Census Bureau, look at that market, look at that area. If you are working in a particular field, let's call it autism, right? Maybe there are journals out there already done that show market penetration where you could just grab and say, you know what, that's not it 100%, but at least this gets me somewhere. And then you can start to dig in there, okay? Any type of state data is public data. You can get all kinds of things from the state, right? So that's another way to get your market numbers up, okay? So the last thing I'll share here with the total with the market is if Weirdo could capture at least 5% of the SAM within the first few years of operation, that would put our SAM at about 210 families that we want to pay $20, $30, or $50 for our service on a monthly basis. Okay, that's how we collect those numbers. Okay, I'm gonna show you an example of what that looks like, a fake example of what it looks like as we finish out our presentation. So the competition, once again, we've kind of went over this over and over again. There are already people servicing the problem that you have that you think that you're gonna solve, right? That they're already being serviced, but they may not be serviced in a proper way. There may be something such as the price is too high, the quality is lacking, right? The access is too hard to get access to, right? What is it that you're actually competing against your competitors, right? And why are other people actually competitors? So in the example I'm going to show you, you're going to see that we break competitors down into two sections: direct competitors and indirect competitors, okay? Those who are direct competitors are usually leaders in the market. That means they already service your customer at some level. They service them so well that people are willing to pay for it over and over and over again, right? So if we look at it, we need to find a couple things that makes you unique. Address some of their weaknesses, like, right? So there's an Apple, there is a Google phones, and then there's Android phones, right? Samsung phones, right? Everyone's still servicing the one issue. People need access to cellular technology. Simple as that. But you can do it in multiple different ways. But what makes you different? Someone use a different processing system. That's all it is, an operating system. That's it. They created a different operating system. That's it. They still service the same group of people. They're competing for everyone's dollars because everyone needs cellular technology, right? But someone's going to choose Apple's OS over Android over Google. I don't know if Google used Android. I don't know. You guys told me. But nevertheless, people want what they want, and they're not willing to change it unless something actually intrigues them. And if you're entering the market, you have to have something compelling enough that proves and validates that the existing solution you have is not the right one. We're the right one for you, right? How can you do that, okay? So the competition, you need to identify what makes them great, also what makes them an opportunity to build something new against them, right? So identifying their weaknesses. Any questions about just the structure of the things you should be looking at as you identify your competition? Okay, so this could be very hard depending on where your research is. Sometimes your competition is the government. It really is. Sometimes your competition is the systems that are in place, that have been in place for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, whatever it may be. Sometimes they're not directly your competitors. So the indirect competitors are the ones who are going to watch you into the market, identify what you're thinking about doing differently, and they happen to have human capital to do what you do. Maybe they have financial capital to do what you do, right? They're watching and understanding that. So I always like to throw the FDA thing out there, because when you have a patent or something like that and you throw it out there, people know what you're doing. They're watching very, very closely. And let's say your patent is up, June 2022 or June 2023, right? And you don't do nothing about it for 2 months. Someone's already watching. They're putting their stuff in there right against you. So this is the kind of competitors that are more like indirect, because they can't necessarily compete against you right now because either you're too new, or they may be too new, or they may not be even their area of expertise. But when you do enter the market, you are going to show light at why you're trying to create value, and they're going to be watching. So let me show you an example of what I mean by this real quickly. Direct competitors. Anyone ever heard of KiwiCo? You've probably seen their commercials. Yeah, they always have kid toys and things like that. You ever think of like these little solar toy packages that you can buy? They're a subscription-based company who does that for kids, but they don't do what Weirdo does, right? They don't really focus on the family time as much as they focus on the kids' education, right? So then we have another one, Baketivity. Baketivity is a subscription box service that offers baking kits for kids, including pre-measured ingredients, recipes, and educational activities. Although they emphasize on the baking and learning aspect, they do not specifically target STEM and STEAM. They do all kinds of stuff. This is lots of stuff they do. And I'm like, nah, that's okay. We want to be focused, right? So that's where you guys want to know. You want to know, what do they do great? What makes them an option for your customer today? And why would your customer say yes, right? Then the indirect competitors, you guys have heard of Blue Apron, right? So Blue Apron's amazing. They've been in the market for so long. They've been leading for so long as a subscription box company, right? But just because they are amazing, they have a high reach on families, doesn't mean they care about STEM and STEAM education. But if they learn what I do, and they see that it's actually creating value and we're targeting the same families, they have enough money, they have enough people, they have enough resources to go ahead and try something right away. That's what we're wanting to pay attention to, right? They may not even care today, but if it brings money in, they might care tomorrow. And that's why you want to be very careful and know who you're actually working against. Anyone ever heard of OutSchool? No one ever heard of OutSchool? You guys should look that up. It's amazing, actually. It's an online learning platform that offers a wide range of classes, including STEM and STEAM subjects for kids aged 3 to 18. So if you have any family out there who has kids between this is a great place to actually go to, right? But for although they have these, access to to STEM and STEAM education, their platform doesn't incorporate the family bonding and baking scenario, right? The components that we offer at Weirdo, okay? So Weirdo differentiates itself by combining the best elements of these competitors: family bonding, baking, and STEM and STEAM education. This unique combination creates a fun and engaging experience that allows families to enjoy quality time together while learning valuable skills, right? That's our value proposition. That's what we're selling. Okay? So, any questions on that as we kind of push forward toward the end of our presentation? Okay. So, I know you guys are in research right now, but at some point, research will no longer be research. It needs to become something valuable that's going to impact lives. You need to have a business model that's going to be able to get it to the market. So everything that we have on our body, everything that we have in our hands, it has a business model, right? How do we get a product from where it's being created to the palm of a consumer's hands, right? So the business model. What I want you guys to look at is some of these other areas, these best practices. Try to be clear on how you can make money. Even though money may not be your direct focus of why you're doing research, at some point it's going to come across, why are you doing research? What does it matter? How do we make money out of this? The government can give you money to help you expand your research, right? But when you start thinking about other funding instruments such as venture capital, such as angel investing, such as bank loans, they want to know how you're going to make money and how you're going to pay me back. That's how simple it is, okay? So here's where you got to identify how you make money. You guys saw what I said. I said, hey, Out there already, there are already services that are providing activities for families at $20, $30, and $50. I'm going to price mine at the highest right now to identify if people are willing to pay for the highest version of it. And if they so say yes, and it continues to be a yes, I'm probably going to go to market at the higher price. Does that make me a premium product? Not necessarily, because I could also add way more value than my existing competitors in the market, and that $50 wouldn't seem so big. But am I also willing to niche it down from 50 to 20 to 30 to $20? At the moment I am, but at some point I can't be all over the place. At some point you gotta pick and then go to the market and test it out, right? So explaining your pricing strategy is very, very important. And I know right now you guys might not have to do that. You guys don't have to talk about money at the moment, do you guys? No, not right now. So since you don't have to talk about money now, don't put too much attention to it. But a good thing about it is to know if it was to enter the market tomorrow, where would it land as an option, as a choice, okay? So you may not need to plug it into your research now, but definitely do some research on this. Describe your sales channels. How are you going to get it to that customer? How do they get your product? How do they get the chance to benefit from it, right? Discuss your strategies, your marketing strategies. How are you going to reach people, right? At some point, you're done with research, you're ready to go, and this is get into the market. How are you going to reach people? So is it social media? Is it influencers? Is it, through articles? Whatever it may be that you feel you're going to reach your customers, make sure they're clear, make sure they're feasible, and present those. And then outline your costs. So probably one of the biggest challenges for you guys is that when you identify your research, you start identifying what it's going to cost to get this thing made. That starts to scare you because it's like, man, this is going to cost a lot of money. What am I going to do? How am I going to do this? Where would I get this money from? But as long as you've identified the actual cost, you can begin to go find the proper streams of funding to support you, okay? But if you have this amazing research and I'm an investor and I want to invest in you, but you can't tell me how much it costs for me or costs you to make this product or deliver this product, then I'm probably not the investor for you, right? So why not have the information ready even though you don't need it tomorrow, okay? Very, very important. So just to keep this going a little bit, the business model for Weirdo, right? Have a pricing strategy. We talked about that. The marketing strategy, how we're going to market this, right? We're going to do blogs, videos. You guys seen Tasty? It's on Instagram. They're like always showing food ideas and blah, 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 hacks, food hacks or whatever it may be. They're like making everything look gorgeous and beautiful. Imagine us doing those same things, but those are families showing the experience that they're having with kids, right? And then they show that on their Instagram, and then a parent sees it and like, what are you guys doing? Oh, we have Weirdo subscription. Tell me more about that. And then they pass off their information. We see it being very organic, right? Very, very organic reach. So we got to do the thing. We got to be where the people are. Social media, right? So the cost, right? What is it going to cost? You guys know baking products, shipping, marketing, all that great stuff costs. So when you guys get there, this is really going to be useful for you when you start to identify where your costs are going to be and how your business model is going to be there. Okay. Do you guys have to explain that if this works, how are you going to go to market? Do you guys have to talk about that at all in your research? Okay. Even though you may not necessarily have to talk about how you get there, the one thing you guys don't want to get stuck in is stuck in research. You got to know, how is this going to impact people? Who's going to help me impact people? Do I need the government? Do I need partners? Do I need whatever? We need to know that that is viable. And if you can throw that into your research and throw it into your pitch, it's going to prove that you know more than just the subject matter expertise. You can actually identify that this is where it's going to need to go through to get to the people who's going to be impacted by your research, okay? So even though you guys aren't necessarily pushing for entrepreneurial endeavors, what ends up happening is that your research will become a solution. And eventually, either you are going to push it out or someone's going to push it out as a product, okay? So Defining your target audience, like we talked about before, helps you identify where you're going to go to market to, who's going to be impacted by this, how you're going to get to them, right? Creating a compelling content to share that story. So once again, if there's personal stories that you can share those, right? The last one, developing like a sales strategy. So I won't go into all of these, but I want you to have this information so that you can clearly understand how to take that research next step. Okay, so go-to-market strategy is one. And then here's kind of what it looks like for Weirdo. Okay. So one thing here that can stand out is, like I said before, the very first one, to effectively reach our target audience, we believe that we need to use a mixture of Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, email marketing, content creation such as blogs and videos, and targeted ads, right? We believe that's the best way to reach our audience, okay? So once again, when you guys get to this point, just looking at the structure of go-to-market just proves that you know how this is going to get out there and compete with the other existing products in the market, okay? So financials, you guys have to talk about financials at all? What is it going to cost you to make this thing? What does it cost to get out there? You have to talk about any of that? No? Okay. So here is the perspective for financials. Even though you may not have to talk about it, having some potential assumptions of what it is like, knowing what it already costs in the market today to be serviced for the problem that you're looking to solve, having knowledge of that, let that be your baseline, okay? It's not necessarily that you have to build it out today because you may not need to throw it into your pitch, but being able to identify that could enhance your pitch, okay? It just could enhance your pitch a little bit more, okay? Here is a facsimile, right? This is all assumptions, but this is how you would want to look at it, right? So say you do have a product and you think this product is going to cost you $35, right? A minimum of $35. That's what people will pay for it. What you do to give you perspective is you go back to that market, the TAM, SAM, and SOM, and you identify the percentage that you want out of that, and you try to multiply that by 12 months in the purchasing of your service, right? That's just one way to get numbers, to see what this is going to do for a potential revenue. And you do the same thing for your fixed expenses, right? What is it going to cost for you to be able to operate? That's there. It costs us $15 per box, right? So that means we're only making, what, $20 on every box? So, and then we see what kind of profits could we make, okay? So once again, you guys may not have to go through this directly, but what this does, it at least gives you a structure of how you can create this when you decide that you want to move the business idea forward or your research forward, okay? The last thing that we're going to talk about is, the last two things we're going to talk about is kind of the team. So you guys have to talk about team at all? Who would be there? Who do you need to build this out? Does that have to come up in your research? Okay, so imagine doing all this amazing research, but not knowing how it's going to do anything, right? That's kind of sad, to be honest with you, because then you have to hope that other people who take your research knows what to do with it, right? And that's not fair to your research. Knowing who the key people are important to the structure of trying to see if your research is viable, right? And knowing who would be the ones who would help push it to the market, right? So not everybody has to have a team. People can do this all by themselves. You can be the solo researcher who innovates something and then also become an entrepreneur right away. You could do that, right? But if you have to establish anything about your team, one of the best things you can do is really emphasize on how you guys either work together or the individual skills that your team brings to the table, right? So maybe you're researching autism, but in reality, you haven't been doing it for 15, 20 years, but you have a subject matter expert who's willing to be on your board, who's been doing it for 30 years and has led some of the top experiments, right? Imagine that being added value to your pitch, right? However you can add that, this is just what you can do to basically, give yourself a little bit more oomph and enhance your pitch, okay? In the business world, one of the best things to do is have social proof, right? Provide that, other people know who you are and know that you've been in this market or in this space, and they trust your opinion, trust your thoughts, trust your judgment. This is another way to prove that you have the right team, okay? So once again, as an assumption, if Weirdo was actually launching tomorrow, it would need to have someone lead the company as a CEO. I'm not gonna lead it because I have other things going on, right? So they need to be a CTO, someone from the technology standpoint, someone who can always focus on that, right? Someone who can help market the company, get the mission out there, get the message, right? The product development, who can help make these cookies? One of the goals for Weirdo is to have 20 top culinary experts create new recipes. They can create 10 recipes for the company and 2 recipes for themselves where their name is on it, and they get 80% of those recipes for themselves back, even beyond what they get paid. So imagine the incentive back to those culinary experts, right? Who wants to be the head of that team, right? We need that. Head of operations, the ability to get it to and from to our customers, right? Sales, all of those are important, right? So once again, you guys might not have to think about this portion of the development of an idea, but it's very good for you to have as you build out the rest of your business model next to the research. The last thing on here is a call to action. Okay, so in your guys' pitch, do you have to have a call to action? Right? You said it later, you're going to talk to chancellors and stuff, so what are you asking them when you're done with your pitch? The last thing you say, what can you do to convince them that you're the one they need to support, right? Call to action. What can they do to support you, right? So if you're structuring your pitch, once again, I don't know how you're going to end it. I don't know which structure they gave you, but I would end it by saying X, Y, and Z, blah, 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 blah. Okay, end of the pitch. Here's how you can help me. I need help being introduced to certain professors. I need help being introduced to certain associations. I need support with development, product development. I need to help and build my MVP, and I need help from a technical expert. Whatever it is that you feel is holding you back from doing something expansive for your research, ask that, right? It just gives confidence. It shows that you know what you're doing. It shows that you're willing to continue. Even if you're not looking to continue in your pitch, though, it gives a different viewpoint from who you are and what you're actually doing. And you never know. There may be someone else listening. Someone else is probably listening. So in this call to action, right, you want to be very clear, very specific, right? Highlight the benefits of what your product will do, right? Create a level of urgency. Why now? Like, why now? Why now for autism? Why now? Is it because everyone's undermined it as a mental health challenge or a mental challenge or whatever it may be? If they undermined it, and if they've been undermined it for so long, no longer will they be doing that. We need to do something now. How can you bring that level of urgency to the table when you're pitching? Okay? Provide your information, who you are. Talk a little bit about yourself. Boast yourself a little bit, right? That's okay to prove and validate that you are the right person to be under this research, or you are the right person to validate this and to work on this, continuously work on it, right? And then if anyone ever gets in touch with you, how do they follow up with you, right? Let people know who you are, where they can get back in contact with you. This is very important for your pitch, okay? So the last thing is to show you a little bit on Weirdo. What are we asking for, right? So to make the most of the opportunity, we are seeking an investment of $500,000. That's a lot of money. To help us scale our productions, expand our marketing efforts, and refine our product offering. So in that little paragraph 2, the very first sentence, it tells you everything you need to know. I just enhanced it with other stuff. I need this amount of money to do these things. Production, expand market, and then our product offering, right? Help us expand our product offering and refine it, right? I could have stopped there, but sometimes you need a little bit more so that people have perspective, that they don't go off thinking, oh, you're just asking for money for no reason, right? And then you deliver information and show, where they can get in touch with you, right? And then the last thing here is like, Don't miss this chance to be part of a truly unique opportunity, right? An exciting business venture. Give me perspective. Don't miss this opportunity to be part of amazing research, right? The research for the future, whatever it may be. Give me some excitement by the end of your presentation. That's going to hold strong. And for those who are looking to continue, then people will feel your passion, your excitement, and they will feel that urgency, okay? All right, so that is it. But you have the 7-minute pitch, you have it in your hands, but I wanted to show you what that looked like real quickly. All in small little paragraphs that eventually comes together. Eventually you learn how to do your practice, and this will become part of your pitch, okay? Or part of your structure to getting your pitch, right? Very, very simple. I put it here in 2 slides. It's a lot of information. Shedrick would kill me that I have a lot of words on this presentation. I never do words on my presentations ever. It's like limited words. But this one here is for you guys. So I'm going to give you all this material. We're going to structure something later today to where you guys can access it on Canvas as well. So we're going to continue to pump more information into this area for pitch, right? And then the other thing that we're going to be doing in the next couple weeks is we're going to be doing a presentation. How do you build a pitch deck, an actual deck? And these are assets. So imagine your pitch video. Imagine your research done, pitch video done, pitch deck done. These are assets that you can use to go ask people to support you. I need money. I need partnership. These are the things we want you to have done. And then you can iterate them and iterate them and iterate them over time. But at least you were able to get them done. So we're here to support you on that. So out of all the things I shared with you, I wanted to give you kind of what a pitch would actually be for 30 seconds. People ever heard of a 30-second elevator pitch, right? People's like, get your elevator pitch, get your elevator pitch. Okay, what is an elevator pitch, right? So an elevator pitch is hook me. Tell me something that's going to grab my attention. Now you have my attention, state the problem. What is that problem? Is it clear? Is it concise? Now tell me the solution to that problem that you're going to solve. When you tell me the solution to that problem, I want to make sure that in that problem, in the solution, you told me who the customer is. Who is that person that has the problem that you're going to solve it for? Tell me the impact that it will have, and then give me a call to action, okay? What can I do? Support me here, do this, do that, all right? So I'm going to give you 2 pitches of what that looks like. One is more story-driven, okay? Story-driven. This is to grab my heart attention. This is to make me feel connected to your problem, okay? How do we draft this as a story? All right, here's the hook. Imagine a Sunday afternoon where the whole family gathers in the kitchen, laughing and learning together as they create delicious treats. I put you into my world, then I explain the problem. In today's fast-paced world, families struggle to find quality time together, while children often lack access to early STEM and STEAM education. Okay, tell me more. Well, introducing Weirdo, a subscription box service that combines family bonding with STEM and STEAM learning through the delicious experience of a delightful experience, and delicious, by the way, experience of baking, okay? With Weirdo, you can create lasting memories, strengthen family bonds, and spark your child's curiosity in STEM and STEAM subjects, all while enjoying a mouth-watering baked goods, okay? Doesn't talk about the actual market, doesn't say nothing about financials, doesn't say nothing about a percentage of this. It's to capture your heartstrings, right? Then we have the call to action. Are you ready to transform family time? Visit our website to subscribe and start your Weirdo adventure today. I tell them where to go, tell them how to get involved, okay? So if sometimes you have to start with a story, build that story out, make it believable, then sometimes you can't start with stories. Sometimes the room is a little bit less dry. They're so dry and they're not even trying to be, funny about anything. They're not trying to feel anything. They want to know more of the realistic statistics and business approach, right? We call this the business pitch, right? So, here we go. Hook. Did you know that 50% of working parents struggle to balance work and family life while early exposure to STEM education is critical for children's success? Problem. Families need more opportunities to spend quality time together while ensuring their children have access to essential STEM and STEAM learning experiences. Our solution, that's where Riddle comes in. Our innovative subscription box, right? Service blends families bonding and STEM and STEAM education through a fun and creative process of baking, right? Impact. With Riddle, families can foster strong connections, nurture their child's STEM and STEM skills, and savor the subscriptions. What is that? Results of their time spent together. Scrumptiousness. That's interesting. I don't know if I put that. I don't think I did that. Call to action. Don't miss out on the unique experience. Visit our website, subscribe, and become a weirdo, right? So that's kind of a different approach. Okay, so whatever your research is, trying to identify the best way to convey that research is what we've been talking about today. Even though we pushed it toward what it looks like in the business world, your research is your research. It still has the same components. 90% of the components are still relevant to your research, right? And why you need to structure it to get that information out there. So I'm going to deliver all this to you guys. I have all your emails if you registered. If you did not register, I can pull it back up so you can register. But here's the last thing I would ask for you is if you can give some feedback on this presentation, it will help us figure out what to change, adjust, even though this is really built for you guys. We can still make it better for the next group of people. All right, so do me a favor and do a little bit of feedback for us. And then please don't leave pizza. Take a whole box if you need to. It's out there, okay? Oh, it's gone. Oh, you moved it? Okay, okay. This is the end of the presentation, so if you guys have questions, I'm here. If you want to talk specifically about your own business or your own research, I'm here to help you with that as well. So, any questions?